the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was 2020. And let's face it was the worst of times. But now, with our very special guests, Virgin Radio Morning's very own Backstage Ben.
Stephen King is my hero.
And co-host of Pop Culture, Neil Temple of Doom.
This just in, I'm a geek.
Loop and Larry bring you the best of the best and the worst of the worst in our annual
Geeky Year in Review.
Arr, it'll be a geeky adventure, says I. In a world filled with intergalactic space battles, metahuman destruction on a global scale, and psychopathic serial hauntings, there's only one team who can make sense of it all. When your world is overrun with rampant pop culture, call Loop and Larry, Guardians of Geek.
Whoa! Woo! We are back, everybody. Loop and Larry, Guardians of Geek. It is 2021. Can you guys believe it? Finally, 2021, and this is our 2020 review show.
Starting it off with a bang, for real.
I know, it's awesome. It's
Hey, somebody finally put that explosion into context. Finally. Thank you.
2021's already been kind of interesting, but we won't get into that. What we're going to do is look back at 2020, take a look back and our hits and our misses of the year. This is our third annual look back show of the year, and I'm quite excited about it. We got two awesome panelists today. We've got Neil Temple of Doom from Pop Culture. How you doing?
Good, man. How's it going?
I am doing awesome. I know I'm yelling at you as if you're like, I'm actually trying to reach you at your house. I'm super excited. It's 2021.
Yeah.
I got from Virgin Radio 97.5. I've got Ben Cummings. How you doing? Frozen.
Doing well. Thanks for having me, guys. This is a real treat.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Also known as Backstage Ben, right?
Yes, yeah. That's everybody asks me why I'm Backstage Ben.
It's why you're Backstage Ben. I don't even know why you're Backstage Ben.
Yeah, I think you guys would appreciate it. I'm the producer of the morning show over on Virgin. So when I started, I was just like the behind the scenes guy. I was the guy that did all the stuff backstage, and I had worked in movies for a while. So they kind of thought it would all turn. They wanted to call me Background Ben to begin with. And I was like, no, that's not going to work.
It sounds like
That's
you're
awesome.
like constantly getting police checks.
Yeah, that's true.
Better than my nickname, Hey Idiot. That's Thanks, guys. So here we are, the 2020. We're going to do TV. We're going to do movies. We're going to do sort of an open category, which could include TV or movies or themes or whichever of the year. And we're also going to take a look at 2021 and things that movies, TV, or whatever that we're excited about. So
this is the hits and the misses. This is where each
hits
choosing
and
our
misses.
Perfect.
So we're going to start with the misses. I always love the good misses.
Yeah.
We're going to spin the wheel. Who's going to go first? And I am going to go with Ben first.
All right, the miss for TV. This might be my most controversial pick that I've done so far.
Oh, awesome!
Off the far, it's the first one. I'm starting it off controversially. To me, the big miss of 2020 was Tiger King, because, and don't get me wrong, I loved it, I watched it, but it has created celebrities out of some of the absolute worst people. And like, I enjoyed the show when we were watching it, but then I quickly got tired of all of the post-show stuff, and between Carol wanting to be the biggest celebrity and being on things like Dancing with the Stars, she's not a star. Joe feeling like he doesn't deserve to be in prison because people like him. That's not a good excuse. It created this huge, like, everybody talks about like the celebrity life, and some people have fallen into celebrity status via, something that's gone viral or a sex tape or something along those lines. But then these guys, like, it was so fascinating to watch at the time, but created the rest of the year. We were talking about these people, and I didn't want to hear about them anymore. I didn't like them when I was watching it. It was a guilty pleasure that ended up lasting for the entire year.
And that show was really dirty feeling when you watched it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like, it just felt dirty, and it was just like the weirdest people. And we're celebrating these people one of which could be a murderer for all we know. Like, we don't know this, right? So,
and the whole point of that documentary was that it was like showing how horrible these people were. Like, it was supposed to be this wonderful thing, this cat sanctuary and all of this, but these are horrible people, and that was that was the whole point of this. And now we're like, now they're heroes.
I know.
yeah.
Sweet irony.
Yeah.
It's like a train wreck, right? It's like a car crash. It's like I couldn't look away. I was fascinated.
It was great, but it's like the train never left. Like it's still there.
It went on like an episode too long. Yeah,
You can only watch the car on fire for so long.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Eventually, the car has to go out. This car hasn't gone out yet.
Yeah.
All right, Neil, what's yours?
Well, if we're not just talking cable, like Netflix and everything.
Oh, anything. It's all open. Yep.
As long as it's on TV.
So-
Rogers television, cable, it's all good. Anything you want.
Okay. Well, the biggest miss that I saw this year that I managed to sit all the way through, like I actually got through the whole season. You know, there's a couple other shows that I didn't even get past episode 1 because they were so bad. But the one show that I watched all the way through that looked promising, has a great cast, the cinematography is beautiful, but it's horrible, and it's called Ratched. And it's on Netflix, and it's about Nurse Ratched from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah.
It stars Sarah Paulson, who's, famous for American Horror Story and all that. And this show just felt like a bad season of American Horror Story. There's another actor from
It was a Ryan Murphy production, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
And all of
it was just bad because like every episode it looked so great. The acting was great, the directing, but the writing was just horrible. It was just, oh my God, like what's going on in this show? It just doesn't feel like it's going to be a precursor to the Louise Fletcher. There, I got it.
That's her name.
Fletcher, Nurse Ratched from the 70s with Jack Nicholson. So it was very disappointing. Yeah, thumbs down.
I didn't even bother with it, honestly, because one of my favorite books, one of my favorite movies, and when I saw that there was a prequel leading up, I was like, oh, this could be interesting. I saw the trailer, and I was like, oh, they've made it like a grimy, like psychological thriller almost. It doesn't match the drama of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And I was like, wow, it just feels, again, dirty. Like it just feels like kind of a greasy show to be watching. And yeah, it's hard when it's, one of your favorite IPs and you don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, it's true. Like I feel the same way. Like I've seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest hundreds of times, maybe. It's one of my favorite, and she's one of my favorite sort of villains, like non-villain villains, and so I was super excited to watch this, and I watched like 4 episodes, and like they literally could have changed the title to American Horror Story Psycho Nurse, and you would have watched that because it would have been an American, and that's what it felt like. There was no reason for it to be called Ratched. Like I don't know why that character had, they could have just created another nurse. It wasn't the same person.
So they should have called it Wretched.
Like 0 likable characters. So,
it was very strange. Yeah, that was a disappointment.
Yeah, I was gonna watch it, and then there's so many other shows on I rather would watch, so I just didn't get to it. But I like Sarah Paulson a lot. Like I like her and stuff, but I don't know, just didn't catch my attention really. So, all right, well I'll definitely stay away from it now. Thanks, Neil. All right, I'll go next since I'm here. My miss is I don't know if you guys watched this show called The Third Day. It was on HBO, and it's the one with Jude Law where it's kind of a like a pagan sort of midsummer sort of show. Right. First episode, amazing. The first episode, I was hooked right in. I'm like, okay, this show is going to be so weird. It's the same sort of idea, like they kind of see little things that kind of in this little small British town on an island. So you like almost like a Wicker Man, where they're seeing little things like happening. You're like, okay, something weird's going on in this place. The payoff was horrible, absolutely horrible. So Jude Law was the main character for the first 3 episodes. Then his wife is the main character for the last 2 or 3, where she comes looking for him. And it's just, didn't tie in. They went nowhere. It was, it's major thumbs down.
I remember when you first mentioned this, because we talked about this show before.
Yeah.
And I think you had only seen the first episode. So you were really stoked about it. You were like, this show's great. You like Midsummer. Like you like that. You like Wicker Man. You got to watch this show.
I love good pagan stuff. I love it.
You totally built it up. I think this was your Dark Crystal.
I think it was, except I didn't make you watch it. That would be the difference.
Right. This is true.
Have you ever watched that show still? Okay, all right. I can't believe you made me watch that. Anyways, Larry, what's yours?
Okay, so I was really excited. So when I was 14 or 15 maybe, there was a show on TV called Amazing Stories. Do you remember this show? It's a Steven Spielberg. Do you remember Amazing
Oh, yeah.
Stories?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Loved that show. Like every Sunday night, I think it was on Sunday nights, I'd watch Amazing Stories. And part of what I loved about it was the opening, because it was the first TV show to incorporate CG, like computer generated opening. So the whole opening was CG, and it was so breakaway and cool. And you're like, oh, this is so high tech, and it was just really awesome. And then the stories were great. I don't know if you remember, there was one called Family Dog. It was animated. It was really funny. Hell to Pay. Do you remember?
Yes. I named my rock band Hell to Pay after that. Because it's so great.
Yeah, guy had a toupee that was possessed, and it made him go crazy. And then there was my favorite episode was called The Mission. Do you remember The Mission? It was a World War II. They were fighting in a plane, like a bomber, and they had to fly a mission, and their wheels were shot out, and so they were going to crash. And one of the guys was an artist and started drawing, like almost went into a trance and drew a tire, and then it came to life. And
I remember that. Yeah.
I've now spoiled the entire episode. But anyway, so it was great. So I was super excited because Apple TV Plus was relaunching Amazing Stories, and I was in 100%, and then I was out. I was literally out at the intro. I was super excited to see if they were going to recreate that intro, and it didn't blow me away. And then the stories weren't as endearing as they were back when I was 15. Now, I mean, maybe if I watched the originals now, maybe they weren't as good as I remember. But that whole nostalgia thing, it just didn't hold me.
It wasn't amazing. No
amazingness
not amazing.
To it. No, they might have been stories. They were not amazing.
Unamazing stories.
So awesome. That was my miss for 2020.
All right, well, let's do hits. All right. And Neil, we'll start with you.
Well, I have a feeling that maybe you other guys might also be thinking the same thing.
Oh yeah.
This helmet isn't perfect. It's a little too wide in the eyes, as you can see, but that's for safety reasons. But still pretty good. Yeah, The Mandalorian. I mean, do you want me to talk about something else because we've talked about it too much? But yeah, I mean, it's a 10 out of 10. They did so many wonderful, surprising things with beloved characters, and they introduced some new characters and brought back other characters from season 1. And it's just pure, beautiful fan service from Favreau and Filoni, who are both amazing. I mean, Dave Filoni, any Star Wars nerd like me, like Lawrence, like anyone, knows Filoni is like a demigod, to Star Wars fans. He is a genius, and his stories are all coming to live action now, so like his characters and things. So yeah, it's amazing. I don't think there's much I can really say about it that hasn't already been said, right? It's just beautiful, wonderful, and yes, I did like the very end of the final episode. Some fans were a little critical of certain CGI elements, right? And they were like, oh, that doesn't look right. But I thought it looked fine. So, yeah, 10 out of 10 for The Mandalorian, best streaming show of 2020.
I love it. Mandalorian to me was like, I remember seeing episode 7 in theaters and feeling like a kid again watching Star Wars for the first time. Haven't really felt that in the theaters since then. But Mandalorian gives me back that old, just full-on sense of adventure that was in the originals. And like, it's not retreads. It's all like there are references, sure, but it's all fresh ground that they're building with it. And it was all so new, and it's not like you're just looking for, oh, well, they're just redoing this part, that sort of thing. Like they've really built on it to just expand on it so much and do it so well, and not just a cash grab is probably the best part about it.
Yeah,
it's true. I mean, you can tell that this show was made by men who became fans when they were 6.
Yes.
And they've grown up with this, and they played with the toys. They're literally taking the toys out of their toy box and like making them move in real life.
Yeah.
And they're playing Star Wars the way we played Star Wars when we were kids. and you can tell that because that's, you're right, Ben. That's exactly the way it feels. Is like you're a kid again and you're watching this. It's so exciting.
And I love how they're taking like the characters from the canon from like Clone Wars and all the other pieces, and they're putting them together. Like when Bo-Katan showed up, you're like, whoa, this is cool. Like the real life characters of Ahsoka, right? Like it was so cool to see these characters that you've watched in Clone Wars and Rebels and things come to life on screen as real people. And I thought they did a great job of melding classic characters with new characters and putting them together and creating brand new characters as well. So yeah, it's so good. This season was great. Like that last episode, like I was crying, I was excited. I was like, it was just like the Luke Skywalker I thought looked great. I thought he looked fantastic. I didn't have any problem with him. So
I think upon revisit is when you're going to notice it. The first time it's such a like an oh my god moment that you kind of look past that. And maybe upon revisit it might
a little bit. But I honestly
might not hold up.
I don't think that it was any different than the CG that they used on Leia in Rogue One.
And Tarkin.
And Tarkin.
Yep.
You had the same. I mean, at least I had that same feeling when they, at the very end of Rogue One, when they opened the door and you see the white cloak and she turns around and it's her young face, and I was like, ah! Yeah, I had that same, like, to me it was.
I got teary-eyed. If you're in the theater, oh god, I miss theaters. Anyway, that's great though. We can watch all this wonderful Star Wars awesomeness at home. So
that's for sure.
So many great. The fact that we finally got, a real kind of canon, kind of decisive situation with Boba Fett. I mean, how long have we been waiting for that, right?
Yeah.
George Lucas and everyone back then, they just thought he was just a slimy bad guy they needed to kill off at the Sarlacc pit, but. He's just so cool looking. He's, it's a cool character that they brought him back and they added his story, and the fact that Tamara Morrison played him makes sense. Obviously, you kind of had to, but just genius casting, and what a great show.
I was talking to somebody else about this. I'll just mention this quick. I've never really been a big fan of Boba Fett. Like he's cool and everything, but he didn't really ever do anything. Like in the original movies, really he didn't do anything.
He's bumbling.
And then he was bumbling, and then he was killed because some dude like whacked him in the jetpack, and he was shot into the Sarlacc pit. Like so, I mean, he was a cool character, but I was never. But now, I'm like, okay, if they had done this with Boba Fett back in the originals, that was the end of the story. Like there would have been no comparison anymore, because what they're doing with Boba Fett's character now is just killer. I think it's just. I'm so excited about that.
He's got his own show now.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
So Larry, you might as well keep going. What's your big other? I know Mandalorian's probably your big hit, but
no, I actually did not go Mandalorian because I figured somebody else would.
Yeah.
So
I think that was on the table. I think everybody knew that. Like
and I thought it'd be too obvious if I did that, so I chose not to. My hit for this year was The Haunting of Bly Manor.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. I love this series, the Haunting series now. Haunting of Hill House, I've watched like 3 times. And so Haunting of Bly Manor had a lot to hold up to with, after following the Haunting of Hill House. And they blew it out of the woods. Like it was, is that a phrase? Blew it out of the woods?
Out of the water,
out of
that
the
would
woods.
actually, that's very appropriate for the Haunting of Bly Manor. So.
I didn't know where I was going there. But yes, out of the water. That was a good segue into something. I don't know. But anyway, but what I loved about it was they changed it. It wasn't the same, like, this one was the first one was all about family drama and tensions, and this one was a love story. Like it was a totally different take. Like there were still ghosts, there was still haunting, it was still frightening. It wasn't there weren't as many jump scares or anything like that.
But atmosphere though, right?
The atmosphere was it's so intense. Like I just found it really intense. And honestly, at the end, I shed a tear. Like the final scene, I was just like, wow, that, like, how many horror TV shows or movies get you that emotional? And for me, it really did. And I just thought that was a great piece of TV right there. So that one is right at the top of my, maybe slightly underneath Mandalorian, but right at the top there.
Have you ever
I'm stunned we haven't. Sorry, Matt. I was just going to say I'm really stunned that you and I haven't talked more about it, Larry, because we discussed Hill House on like just over and over again.
Yeah.
This one I didn't love it as much as Hill House, because Hill House is still one of my like favorite shows.
Yes.
I think it could have used perhaps a little more haunting, because there's some tension.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of like clutching your, blanket up to your face kind of moments, which Hill House had, and that didn't take away from any of the drama. I think that they could have ramped that up a little bit, but also they're not just worried about expectations from the first season. I think it's a completely different crew. It's a lot of the same cast, which you love to see in those kind of shows, but completely different characters and everything like that. Some with questionable accents, but overall.
Well, that was the thing.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But I just
Freezing
like
a bit.
I like that they took the ghost idea from the first one and made the ghosts essentially.
There we go.
Spoiling too much. Made the ghosts the main players.
Yes.
I mean, like I thought that was a really cool twist on it. I thought,
Yeah,
that was
for
neat.
sure.
I don't know where they're going to go from here.
I don't think they are. I heard that they're not planning on anymore.
Oh, that was it?
Yeah.
Ah,
For
disappointing.
now, Flanagan at one point tweeted out saying that there are no future plans for new ones, but I mean, classic literature has plenty of ghosts in them, so I'm sure they can find some inspiration somewhere.
Okay,
A lot of checkbooks can come out.
That's now my biggest miss of 2020 right there, that there are no more hauntings.
There it is.
Have you ever watched I watched one of the YouTube videos where it shows all the ghosts that were in the backgrounds of scenes, and I'm like, how did I miss all those? There was like a million of them, like standing way in the background and that, and I'm like, how did I miss all of that? Like,
Did you miss all of them? The first time I saw one in Hill House scared the hell out of me. Like, I was just in a window somewhere, and it was like, and that made it, because then you're looking for the rest of the series. You're looking all over the place.
I saw a few of them, but there was ones that were like really like hidden, and then but when you watch the thing, you're like, oh my god, there's like a ton that I just didn't see.
Yeah.
Just hanging in scenes that were like just you
there's
weren't
something
expecting.
like 56 ghosts or something hidden in the first series. Like there's a ton of them. Like they're everywhere, and they're really well hidden. But it's funny because once you watch that video, if you go back and watch that season again, they're clear as day. Like you.
Oh yeah,
clear as day.
They're like
I always
right
find
there.
that sort of stuff. That's a rewatch thing for me. It's the same with scouting for Easter eggs in a Star Wars or something like that. I want to sit and watch with fresh eyes the first time around and not be distracted in the background or whatever's going on, that sort of thing, So but that enriches the second time around. Like that, sometimes it's a one watch thing, but this time it's a 2 or 3 watch, which is great.
Bly Manor was really good. I thought that second last episode was really, really sad. The black and white and everything was beautiful. I thought the acting was really good, but I got to agree with Backstage Ben. I got to say that it could have used more scares. Maybe too many tears and not enough scares.
Yeah,
especially when they release it in October, right?
It was a good adaptation, though.
Yeah, you do. I mean, and that it did create more controversy than the first season, because I think people expected that it was going to be a jump scare show. But it really wasn't, and I think people were there sort of two sides to this show. I mean, two sides of the argument, and it really did create a bit of a rift in the fan base a little bit because of the way they chose to do it. But
it's too bad that takes away from people's enjoyment of the show, right? Because if you don't go in expecting it to be as high scare value as the first season, then if you go in expecting that, then you will be disappointed. But if it's not like that at all, and I think that's why there were articles that were like warnings, it's great, it's really, really good, not terribly scary.
Not scary, yeah. It's true, and it's good to know that going in.
All right, well, I'll go next. I'll stay in the sort of horror realm. Mine was The Outsider. I don't know if anybody watched that.
I did.
Yeah, the Stephen King adaptation. It was on HBO. It was 10 episodes, and it had Ben Mendelsohn.
Yep. Mendelsohn, yep.
Yeah, Mendelsohn in it, and I loved it. I was like hooked episode after episode.
Oh, something's gonna happen here.
Here we go.
That was my runner-up for the miss of 2020.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
But also for the same reason, Luke, that you say that you didn't love The Third Day was, to me, there was so much going for it. And it's one of the few Stephen King books that I haven't read yet. So I came into it not knowing the story.
Yeah.
But again, so Jude Law is Jason Bateman in this case. You've got Jason Bateman kicking things off as like the main character for a few episodes. And then while things shift around, but I just found you've got you got like 4 great episodes spread across 10 episodes. There were so many.
It could have been maybe 8.
It took a long time.
Yeah, I just loved it. I just got hooked in it, and I like that the story was sort of sprawling, like it wasn't like really quick paced. I like that it was sort of simmered, and then and also the supernatural sort of aspect. You knew something was going on, but it wasn't in your face even by the end. They didn't have to fight some massive monster or anything. It was kind of understated in that way. That's what I liked about it. I wasn't like. I like
that, and I like the fact that there were a lot of characters who were very skeptical about the whole thing, right? Like you had that, but you could fit just conversations of the skepticism in about 2 full episodes. Like there's so much talk about, well, this can't be it. This can't be real.
Well, there was an episode too where they went to this like really cool fried chicken stand, like, and I had to go get fried chicken that night. I couldn't like handle it. I was just like, I got to get fried chicken.
That was a highlight for sure.
It was, but no, I just loved it. I thought it was great. I was hooked from start to finish. I couldn't wait for the next episode. Like I just was like right into this storyline. So anyways, that was mine. And Ben, what's yours?
Mine is, I haven't actually finished it yet, but for me, it was Schitt's Creek, and I was not expecting to love it as much as I really do.
Okay.
In 2015, I think, when it came out, I watched the first episode or 2 and passed it off as another not great Canadian comedy. Honestly, I was expecting Brent Butt to show up at some point.
Oh no.
But and I hated all the characters. Like every single person in that show, I didn't like them at all. But my wife eventually, she was watching it and she kept saying, "You got to give it a try. You got to give it a try." So after the rave reviews of the series finale, I was like, "Okay, I'll give it a try." So I slogged through the first few episodes again, and then like there's some way that you can connect with these unconnectable characters.
Yeah.
Like so like atrocious human beings in some cases that end up so endearing. And as the show goes on, I think I'm in like midway through season 4 right now. Like they're adorable. It's such an uplifting show. I find it so wholesome despite the fact that they drop the F-bomb like once every 3 episodes. It's so weird to me that they've done that.
Yeah.
Like it could very easily be like a TV PG or whatever, but they end up just going, it's a TV MA because they say the F word. Like I probably heard it like 15 times in 4 seasons. It's not a ton.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it actually is one of those shows that just brings me joy to watch. I love it.
It's true. And I feel like everybody feels like that. Like I was in the same boat that you were. I didn't really get into it. We binged it this year.
Yeah.
Like, so that we could catch up before season 6 aired. Like
good call. Yeah.
So, yeah, we did the same thing, but it was the same. I was like, I don't know. But like I haven't met a single person who doesn't like this show. Like there's just something about these people who are not the best people. Like they're not the greatest human beings, but they become the greatest human beings. Like it's like almost about redemption and just about how, even the most questionable people can be like just so amazingly great. And just wait till you get further in, it gets even more like,
I love where we're at now. Like they found their groove within season 2, and people it's not like it was a huge change where you've seen characters from season 1 be completely different in season 2 because they weren't resonating with the audience. There's been this great character arc with everybody. And like there has been redemption in a lot of cases, but it's just like, it's so uplifting and positive of a show, despite the fact that they're also horrible sometimes.
Weird mix. It's literally like a once in a lifetime thing. Like I don't think anybody could recreate a show like that.
It's definitely another crown in Canada's jewels, I would say.
Jewel in
the crown.
About the acting. I love the acting is what drew me in, but the writing is what kept me watching.
Yeah.
Love Schitt's Creek.
Yeah, it's so perfectly cast. Like every one of those people you believe that that's who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's hard for me to see Dan Levy in interviews now and not think that he's David. I mean, he is. Like they're all, and Annie, I can't remember her last name.
Miller? Is it Miller?
The sister.
Murphy.
Annie Murphy. Yeah, same thing. She's Alexa. Like that's all. That's who she is. So good.
I was a huge SCTV fan, so this was like a easy watch for me. Like I just was totally into it. The thing I like about it too, it's not your conventional sitcom type writing. If you notice, like sometimes the ends, like usually like lots of comes end with like one big line and then they go out, but sometimes it'll just be like a throwaway line. All of a sudden that music starts playing and the credits start going. I'm like, that was it. It's like,
Yeah,
it was
it
like
just kind of fizzles, but it's always so funny when it does.
I know, it's like, this is great. I love it. Like at first I was kind of like, okay, that's kind of a weird way to get out of that episode, but after a while you get used to that style. It's just like a slice of life, and they're out. That's done. That's credits roll. It's like, it's pretty cool. I just love it. Like it's just so good.
It's not wrapping up a comedy storyline in every half hour.
Right.
Yeah, that's not what it is. It's, you're right. It's a slice of life. That's what happened in that particular moment in their lives. So
just
good.
so good. All right, well, let's move on to movies of 2020. Now, there hasn't been a huge selection, so we may have some doubles up. If someone has your movie, just jump in on it, and we'll move from there. Okay, let's start with, who have we started with yet? Did we start with Larry yet? I don't think we have.
No.
Let's do it.
I'm going to start?
You're going to start.
All right.
You're up.
All right, so hits. We're doing hits, right?
Hits. Let's go hits first, yeah.
Okay, so hits first. This one was late in coming for me because I just watched it maybe a week or two ago, and it had been on my list and I hadn't watched it, but I thought I'm gonna go see it. It's on Netflix. It's obviously, we're not in movie theaters right now, but it's got Andy Samberg in it, who I love, and I thought, okay, Andy Samberg, I like him. I'm already in. It's called Palm Springs. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
I want to see it. I haven't
watched it yet, but yeah, it's on the list for sure.
I loved this movie. Okay, since you haven't seen it, I'm not going to go into detail. Have you seen it, Neil?
I think it's like Groundhog Day, but different, but I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I won't go into details.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, there you are. Neil's right. It's like Groundhog Day, except for different. So it's got a geeky element to it. So it fits with what we're doing. It is like a romance, like a love story, but it's definitely falls within our universe in a pretty awesome way. And it's Andy Samberg, who's Andy Samberg in this movie.
He's the king of underrated comedies. Like Popstar is one of the funniest movies of 2016. Like it kills me, and it got no love. Same with Hot Rod. I mean, Hot Rod I didn't love the first time, but
I love Hot Rod. I love Hot Rod.
Love Hot Rod. I just showed it to my son last year. I was like, you've got to see this. This is the funniest movie. I think I like it more than he did, but I love that.
Have him watch it again. That's what it was with me. The first time around, didn't love it, but it definitely grows on you and sticks with you. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I love that movie. Well, I mean, this is like that. Like, I mean, I fell in love with it instantly, but I could see it's the kind of thing that people are like, this is a little bit odd and a little bit weird, but I feel like if you watch it a second time, you're going to be like, this is fantastic. Like, it's a very sweet movie too. Like, it's a little bit like, I mean, his movies are, because Hot Rod kind of was too. Like,
there's a lot of heart for sure in them.
Yeah, he's a sweet, lovable guy, and that's who he is in this movie as well. But this is like right near the top of my list. Might be at the top of my list. I just loved it. I thought it was a fantastic movie. I just wish that it had been on the big screen. It felt like it could have used a big screen.
Yeah.
Even though it's not a monster movie or takes place in space or anything like that, it just felt like it would have been more immersive to be on a bigger screen. That was the only downside to it, but I highly recommend it. It's a great one.
All right, Neil.
Favorite movie? Wow. I don't know if it's my absolute favorite because I haven't watched a lot of 2020 movies, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm just going to point out one that it looked like it wasn't going to be anything great, but I actually had a lot of fun with it, and that is Bill and Ted Face the Music.
Oh, all right.
I just watched that. Yeah.
Yes, it was most triumphant. Basically, it wasn't bad. Like, you think about a sequel from, like, I guess it was like 29 years earlier that the last film, The Bogus Journey, right? So it's been a long time since the public had gotten to see these characters. And it's like the traditional kind of, like idiot friends, right? And then they learn and, they get respect for history and stuff. But they're just so silly and with their, like, kind of California surfer accents and stuff. But it's actually good. That's the surprising thing, because a lot of people were like, oh God, but it was actually pretty good. Face the Music is actually a lot of fun. The supporting cast is great. There's a nice little tribute to George Carlin there, So yeah, I mean, it definitely pleases a lot of fans of the first two movies. If you love the first two movies, you got to give this one a chance for sure, because it is a lot of fun. It's definitely worth renting at least once anyway. So I had fun with that one. I'll probably think of a movie I like better later, but for now, I had fun with that one. So.
I'm glad you say that,
was
because
it.
I struggle with comedies sequels that take place so much later, or not even take place, but occur so much later. There's a list of just disappointing comedy sequels. Anchorman 2 was one of those.
Yeah.
Dumb and Dumber 2 was not near as good as it would have been.
Yeah.
Super Troopers 2, I was so looking forward to that. And it's just like, and Jay and Silent Bob reboot too. I'm like one of the biggest Jay and Silent Bob fans. I was like, watching really old men now do these kind of jokes.
Yeah,
I don't know, like,
that one
and
wasn't
I'm
good.
older too, so the humor doesn't hit me the way it did when I was like 18. But it's worth a shot. So that's exactly why I didn't watch that, but I totally would based on your recommendation.
I watched I watched all three back to back because like I hadn't seen the first two in a long time. I realized Bill and Ted aren't really that funny of characters. They're kind of they're very one note.
Yeah.
But the first movie was kind of fun because they go back in time. There's a lot of great supporting characters in that movie. This Bogus Journey can go right in the trash. That movie's horrible. Like it's just like the first one had like a charm to it. The second one they had to bring, of course, like an evil villain in, and it's just like it just took away the magic of that sort of like the idea. The third one I thought they brought back. I like that the daughters went back to find the greatest musicians in history. To make the greatest band ever. I thought that was really cool. And it had more of the feel. I did like the Bill and Ted where they played like themselves in alternate realities. I thought was good. So I thought it was pretty good. Like I was actually like, after I watched Bogus Journey, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I can sit through this third one, but I was like, no, it was good. I thought it was more like the first one. It was much more like the first one, but Bogus Journey can go in the trash. So just get that ready in my dumpster fire of movies. Just throw that in there.
Station. What's up with those aliens? Anyway. Yeah.
Well, before my pick, I'll say that there wasn't like not a lot of great movies that really like I was that excited about this year that I really walked out of. The only one I thought was like I was still thinking about at least when I walked out was Tenet. So yeah, like did you guys see? You guys all saw Tenet? Or yeah,
I'll talk about Tenet in a minute.
Oh, good. And I'm only putting it up there because I was still thinking about it after. It was entertaining enough. I was very confused during it, like for sure. I'm not gonna say much more about it because I feel like it's gonna come up again.
Maybe.
Okay, so I'll wait to add more to it. But it was like I thought it was a cool looking movie. I thought it looked awesome. I thought it was just like the way it was produced was really cool. It was sometimes I wasn't sure if it walked the line of is it clever or is it just like kind of dumb? Like I wasn't sure, you know what I mean? It walked that sort of like fine line.
It's a stoner movie, right? It's like when you're stoned, you're not sure if you're being really, really smart or you just sound like an absolute idiot.
Yeah, that's where it was for me. I was like not sure if this was a clever movie or not. Like I wasn't sure what I saw was cool or not cool. But anyways, I'll put that as the top one that was most entertaining for me. I'm gonna say it's the best movie of all time. Just say it was the most entertaining this year.
Yeah.
Of 2020.
I will give it credit for a big budget movie actually going in a theater too.
Yeah.
I will give it that. I gave it an extra couple points for me. So it was. But other than that, I saw it in the theater and I don't know. I thought it was all right. Good it's
A special moment because it was in the theater. Yeah.
It was. I just gave it points and I put in a point system and a scale.
That's saying a lot about 2020 when your whole wrap up is I thought it was all right.
Well, that's the best I can give it. That's the best I can give it.
That's 2020 in a phrase right there. I thought it was all right.
It looked good. Ben, what do you think?
My hit, one of my favorite movies of 2020. It was a festival release in 2019, but a big one in 2020 was Color Out of Space with Nicolas Cage.
Oh yeah.
I adore that movie. I went in with super high expectations because I love Gonzo, Nick Cage. I love Lovecraft. I love Richard Stanley. All of it. Like I went in with super high expectations, but also like it can't be as good as I think it'll be. And it was just delightful. I was so wrapped up in it as it was getting crazier and crazier. I knew that I was also getting crazier and crazier, and like it was perfect. It was like a drug trip, but it was free because it was on Netflix. So it was great. I really loved it. Like the colors, the actual coloring of the movie was phenomenal, and it's such an unusual color that they picked, and it works so well. The effects, especially the practical effects, were phenomenal. It felt very thingy to me, obviously.
Yeah.
I loved it. And I thought I had seen Mandy earlier.
Yes.
And I thought Mandy was going to be my movie of the year. But then Color Out of Space even just blew
really?
that out of the water too.
Yeah, that was freaky stuff.
Yeah.
I felt the exact same way about The Thing. I totally thought this was like a modern retelling of The Thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But in a good way, like in a totally different way, but it felt
much
like,
better than the modern retelling of The Thing that we had a few years ago.
Yes, absolutely.
The prequel,
That was, I totally had forgotten about that movie, but you're right. I mean, I think Nick Cage has finally, after all these years, found his niche. Just be as crazy as you can possibly be.
Ridiculous, yeah.
And you're gonna
He does
be
need good support.
not that crazy.
And so that's exactly why I say he needs a good support system, though. You can't just say your log line can't be just throw Nicolas Cage in front of a camera and let him do his thing. You do need to have a good script for him to chew on and that sort of thing. Like that's why Mandy works too, I think, and that's why the History of Swear Words on Netflix now. That's why he's a perfect choice for that, because it's so outrageous, and you need somebody with no inhibitions, but you also have to make sure that they're not just going completely haywire. You need to have that story to back it up, and that's why, yes, you're right. He's picking the right scripts now because there are still a lot of bad Nicolas Cage movies out there.
Oh yeah, but really,
many.
He's had two like really solid performances in his last two. Like, has he done anything between Mandy?
He did one called Jiu-Jitsu, which looks horrible. It's Jiu-Jitsu against aliens, actually. From what I've seen, I haven't watched it yet, but the reviews on that one so far are not great.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I mean about having a good script and a good support system.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Good call on that one. I'd forgotten about that one. That's right up there too.
All right, let's go to Mrs. I'll go to Lawrence because I wonder what he's going to pick.
Oh, well, unfortunately, and it really pains me to have put this as my miss of the year because I love Christopher Nolan. Like, literally, he has not had a misstep in his career. Like, until Tenet. And I just... Like, I saw it in the theater, too, and I was so... First of all, you're right. It was in the theater, and I was so excited to see anything in the theater.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let alone a massive tentpole movie, let alone a Christopher Nolan movie.
Yeah.
I went in with the highest expectations. And his movies are always, like, cerebral. Like, you always need to think. Like, I mean... Inception, Interstellar, they're all like you really had to sit and figure out what was going on. So I knew going in it wasn't going to be like just spoon fed, but to literally be confused from the first moment of the film until the credits ended, I was like, this is not good storytelling. If I literally am lost for 2 solid hours, I don't understand. I went with my son who's 16 and he loves Christopher Nolan too. One of his favorite movies is Interstellar. Like, he just loves it. Yeah. And about an hour and a half in, I leaned over to him and I'm like, do you have any idea what's happening? And he said, I have no idea what's happening. Like, both of us were totally lost. But Luke, you're right. Like, it's gorgeous. Like, it looks amazing. So it kept my interest. Like, I wasn't bored at any point because it's really intriguing. Like, it looks really cool. And he did a lot of really cool physical, because it's all time. Have you guys seen it?
Oh, yeah.
Neil, did you see it? Oh,
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, well, it's time based. Like, it's all based on time and that sort of thing. And he did a lot of physical effects where there are 2 different timelines happening in the same room, like with 2 people who are literally operating in 2 different timelines, one going forward and going backwards. And he physically did it so that one actor did all of its performance backwards while the other actor was going forward. So when they played the camera, they reversed it. It was brilliant. Like, it was amazing.
That is brilliant. I think like that, the fight scene, like the main, like hand-to-hand combat, that scene and the fact that you watch it twice almost makes that movie one of the best of the year because it is absolutely incredible.
It is. And like the level of filmmaking is unparalleled. Like, I've never seen anything like it. Like, and there's a massive battle scene sort of at the end. That's the same thing. Like, it's backwards and forwards at the same time. And it is literally mind blowing. But
Larry loved it. Okay, let's move on. And we'll leave it right there because that's perfect.
but the problem I had was it was way more convoluted than I think it needed to be.
So complex.
It was and it didn't need to be, because like it was one of those movies that I came home and I watched like 3 different YouTube videos of like Tenet explained just to figure out what was happening. And it took several videos to kind of go, oh, okay. So now I understand it. And I feel like if I went back and watched it again, it might be better. But originally I was just like, I don't know what's happening. So,
it fell in the middle for me. It wasn't the biggest hit for me. It wasn't the biggest miss though, but that was exactly it. It was so confusing that at one point I just gave up on it, right? And then it's still enjoyable enough to watch and sort of let happen. I'll be honest, I did the same thing with Inception the first time I watched it. Couldn't understand it. Or where the hell they were in the layers of dreams and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Again, but that makes it worth another rewatch at some point when you were able to understand it. You've got the shock and awe of how cool looking it is out of the way. You can start to try to follow it. And that's why Inception actually became one of my favorite movies when I was able to actually follow it along a lot easier.
Exactly. And I feel like that's the case. Like I haven't actually gone back to rewatch it. Like my plan was to actually go back to watch it in the theater because there was nothing else playing. I wanted to see a movie in the theater. I was like, maybe I'll go back and rewatch it. But I couldn't, because it's like 3 hours long. It's a really long movie.
It's long, yeah.
And I just couldn't bring myself to, I'm like, I don't know if I want to sit through 3 hours again of not. So I'm waiting for it to come to Netflix and where I can like piece it out and spend some time with it. And I'm sure you're right. I'm sure over time, if I watch it a couple more times, it'll be like, that is amazing.
Yeah.
Because Christopher Nolan's good. Like he knows what he's doing.
For sure.
I'm a student of David Lynch, so I'm used to confusing movies. So
fair enough. There you go.
I kind of got it. Like I actually was pretty close at what it was going on, but it took me to the end to piece it together.
Yeah.
But it's a puzzle. It definitely is a puzzle.
Huge puzzle. Big puzzle. And I'm not a good puzzle maker. So as much as it hurts me to say it, it was my miss of the year.
All right. Neil, what do you think?
I didn't see many bad movies this year. But you know what? I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning of 2020, back in January.
Oh, man.
I'm such a big Robert Downey Jr. fan, but I actually watched Doolittle. I know. I actually watched it, and I'm just like, I'll just watch this. What the hell? I know it's going to be for kids. I know. And that was the thing, right? It was all just, it's for little kids. But oh my God, it was like, again, I couldn't watch.
I turned the trailer off halfway through. I don't know how you made it through the whole movie.
Yeah, I did. I just, it was like, at some point it was like I'm more on my phone than watching this movie. But so I didn't really give it my full attention because I kind of lost interest, like in the first third of the movie. And the whole time you're just going like, why did they make this? It's just,
yeah.
But I don't have much to say about Doolittle, and little to say about Doolittle. So
this is one of those movies that got such bad press and bad reviews, and that I really want to see it because I'm like, I gotta see this thing. Like,
it's like Cats or The Room. Or
I really want to see how bad this thing. I haven't watched it yet, but it's on my list because I'm like, this is gonna be the most fun I've had at the movies all year.
Oh,
it's
God.
gonna be just terrible.
I couldn't get past
if you want to
accent.
laugh at it, it's a good time.
Yeah.
His accent was horrible in the trailer, and I'm like, I can't even. Like, I was like, Ben, I can't watch any more of this. This looks terrible. Like so bad.
Yes.
All right, Ben, what's happening?
Okay, the biggest miss for me is not necessarily a bad movie, but it was a big disappointment just based on the controversy around it, and that was The Hunt with Betty Gilpin.
Yes.
I enjoyed the movie, but it had what I have called interviewitis, in the fact that the same with Seth Rogen and James Franco's The Interview. There is so much controversy building up before the movie comes out, saying it's going to divide the nation, and it's like it's cats versus dogs and all this sort of thing. Like, it sounded like it was going to be this incredibly inflammatory movie, and it wasn't at all. It's a good movie. I enjoyed it, but to me, I just found like it was a little opportunistic in the fact that it's basically The Most Dangerous Game, but then they throw in little shots that, like, they'll say libtards and they'll say snowflakes and they'll say this sort of thing here and there and sprinkle that in to make it seem like it's, edgy, I guess. I don't know. The violence in it was great. It's a horror movie level violence, although it's not necessarily a horror. It's more of a thriller. the performances are uniformly very good. Like you've got Ethan Suplee and you've got Ike Barinholtz and of course Betty Gilpin. Like everybody does a really good job, and Hilary Swank's in the damn movie. Like
Yeah.
so crazy. But to me, it didn't. I at no point was like, oh, I see what they're talking about. It was way too much, I guess, anti-hype before the movie came out because nobody had seen it. The trailer, once again, really made it seem like it was a different movie than it was. Very different. That was like the opposite of what people thought it was going to be. But it was like, I felt like leading up to it, I was like, ooh, this is one of those times like sneaking booze out of my parents' liquor cabinet. I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be watching this, but I am. I can't wait. And it was like, it was fine.
It sounds like those movies from the 50s and 60s that the trailers were like, we dare you to say the entire, to not pass out after the opening credits.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a plastic skeleton jumping around the screen. What?
Yeah.
That's what this sounds like.
Yeah, I was actually surprised by that movie. I didn't know I hadn't even seen any of the hype going into it. So I was just like, I was walked into that movie, but it was like, because there's a few actors that were bigger in the first scene and they're like killed off in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, what? I thought they were going to be like the main characters. Cause I'd walked in with like no knowledge of this movie. I loved it. I thought it was great. I like movies where people are hunted down for some reason, like Ice-T and Surviving the Game. You know what I mean? Like
that's the thing. Again, it's not a bad movie, but like literally Trump, and not that I'm one to really follow Trump's words, but he tweeted about how divisive this movie was going to make the United States.
Really?
And they pulled it. They canceled the movie. They dropped it from release for a few months, and then they were going to release it again until the pandemic hit. So it was one of those actually ripped from theaters, was not going to make it into theaters. And so again, just like The Interview, I was like, oh, I've got to see this. What is making everybody so mad? And though it's again, not a bad movie at all. I enjoyed it. I'll probably watch it again, but with totally different expectations.
Yeah. Wasn't there a school shooting or some sort of an event that happened just before its release that got it pulled? I seem to remember that there was an issue, like some gun violence issue.
I think you could be right.
Yeah. I think that there was something that happened that they said, well, we can't have people hunting other people.
Yeah.
So I think that
that's possible.
Pulled it because of that. But then it made it back in, and obviously the type of hype that it got probably made it way more money than it would have made if there was no hype.
It would have if it ever made it into theaters. I think I watched it on Netflix or Crave or something.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't think it made it. Yeah, I don't think it went to. I think it was one of those ones that then the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And then you could rent it for $20.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah.
All right, I've got two possibles here. I'm just gonna go. Do we go with one or do we go with two?
Start with one, and then we might stop you after that.
Okay, I've got to go right into Wonder Woman. Have you seen Wonder Woman?
I have not yet.
No.
I think Neil, you saw it. It's riddled with problems. It's a great looking movie, and on the surface looks really fun. But when you start digging into the plot of this movie, it's really not great. There's a lot of things not explored. There's some really questionable decisions in it that they made, and it's just, if you guys, I don't want to spoil it if you guys haven't seen it. It was just, I just didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would have.
Yeah, it's really hard to point out the criticisms, like the lesser parts of the movie without spoiling it.
Yeah,
because it all has to do with this thing, this MacGuffin, this object that the Mandalorian has, But I enjoyed it for the most part. I thought the third act was like, well, they could have done that differently, and there were parts of it where like. By the end of it, you're like, I'm gonna go watch the first one again.
Yeah, I love the cast.
Not terrible.
It's like. It looks great. Like you're like, oh, this looks fun. Like the whole time you're thinking must be fun because it looks fun. But then you dig deeper and you're like, why did this happen? And this doesn't make any sense. And how can they fly a standard jet all the way to the Middle East in one tank of gas? I don't know. There's a lot of questions in this movie that I cannot answer. But you'll find it when you see it. Like it's worth watching, but it's.
I have this big problem, and it's the same thing that I did with The Hunt. I hate paying for a movie to stream it at home Like I spend so much money every month on streaming services, you know, for
Yeah.
that extra bit. So The Hunt was one of them. Wonder Woman was one of them where I'm just like, you know, Disney Plus has got Soul and it's on there. They didn't charge to watch that. You know, they did they did that with Mulan, and I passed on Mulan. I'm passing on Wonder Woman for that reason. Totally would be, you know, opening weekend in the theaters to see it. But it's just not one that I can justify spending like 20 or 25 or $30 to see at home.
Yeah, $30. It's I think that's turning a lot of people off. Like I get it, because chances are you're probably not watching it alone. Maybe most people watch it with somebody. And if you were to go to a theater, $30 for a movie is what you're paying. So, but the problem is you're at your home.
Yeah.
And you're not, you know, I mean, it's not the same experience. When you go into a movie theater and you pay $30, you're paying to be in those seats. You're paying to smell the popcorn.
ambiance. Yeah.
Yeah, you're paying to see it on the biggest screen. And those are all parts of the cost. So to charge the same for a streaming movie at your home, I just don't think is right.
Yeah, you got to split it. It's not worth it for one person.
That's right.
No question. I mean, split it with your wife or your girlfriend, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know, or whatever. But
the only thing I did hear about this, and I think Neil, you had mentioned this, was that it's called 1984, but there's no 80s music in it.
That's another issue I had.
What?
They've got the malls, they've got the fashion, but no music?
Yeah.
It's good news and bad news for me, because I agree with you, Larry, that it's kind of like, what, really? You know, but at the same time, I love the 80s to death. I know we all do, because we're all more or less from that kind of generation. But but I didn't want them to kind of just put in like another version of, you know, like another, you know, whatever, Take on Me, Come on Eileen, or whatever, you know, whatever 80s huge song they're going to do. They did Blue Monday for the trailer, and that trailer was so awesome. That's one of the best edited trailers I've ever seen, was that first Wonder Woman 84 trailer. So I got enough of the 80s music just out of that. So it is kind of like odd, but to me it wasn't that disappointing that there wasn't that much 80s music. It was more just kind of like the flow of the story that was kind of more like,
that's a problem.
There's a lot of scenes where I'm like, oh man, this could have used this song or this song. Like, you know, it's just, there's one scene where there was like, I think it was like Frankie Goes to Hollywood or something, was very light in the background. Like, I think it was an actual 80s song, but it was so light in the background of this party scene. Like, you wouldn't have known it. Like, but I was like, it definitely there's lots of scenes where I'm like, oh, this could have used like Take My Breath Away by Berlin or something, right? Like, it was,
where's the Duran?
There's lots of, even like the B level songs could have been in it, but it was, I don't know if they just didn't want to pay for them. I don't know why no one decided that, hey, this would be a great idea to put 80s music in a movie that takes place in the 80s, but I don't know.
But the fact that it's called 1984, I mean, it just screams out to be like covered in 80s nostalgia.
Well, and there's scenes where they really push the 80s stuff, like nostalgia, and then there's scenes where they've forgotten about it, and it's like you're like, it could be any movie at any time period. Like you forget.
Which was a problem in the first one too. Like they had that issue in the first one where they just kind of ignored the timeline or the time frame of it in some cases. Like overall, again, it's like it's dripping with that era. But then you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right.
All right.
And I'll just leave the New Mutants out there. That was my second pick. I couldn't decide between the two. So I'll leave New Mutants just on the side for you guys to think about for a later podcast. So
that was a missed opportunity for sure.
Yeah, that was. Let's move on to our other category. So this can be pretty much anything. Like you can go back to TVs or movies. You can do a theme. You can do anything like that. So let's start with our hits of this year. So let's go, Ben.
For me, it was I'm going to go with the music theme overall, which is probably to be expected, but the music that came out of the pandemic. So not just what was going to be released either way, but some of the music that came out of the pandemic just hit so well. I look at things like, we'll start with Canadian boys, Arkells. They did a full on acoustic album of all their hits, and not like this was not planned ahead or anything like that, but they wanted to do something. So they recorded it all separately, acoustically. And it's a great album. It's called Campfire Chords. It's all the recognizable hits from those guys, but acoustic. They went all into the pandemic. They released 5 songs this year. They did like daily music lessons. They really, they went online as much as they could. And I loved it. Bruce Springsteen got back together with the E Street Band out of nowhere. They recorded it over like 10 days or something like that. And it was, again, something that wasn't planned. Nick Cave, who's one of my favorites, Nick Cave did a concert by himself at Alexandria Hall. It's just him and a piano. and an empty, huge hall. It's gorgeous. It is such wonderful, wonderful music that he did with it. And Dropkick Murphys did an empty show at Fenway, which I loved. And that was one of the two shows that I actually streamed, like the 2 concerts that I streamed were both Dropkick Murphys. They did their St. Patty's Day special, and then later on in the summer, they did a Fenway Park one. And it was super fun. I'm not a huge concert streamer. I don't love that sort of thing, but they did a great job. And I just loved that they were like the music that was created, not the new stuff. There's a lot of like pandemic adjacent new music that was related, which is great. But what artists did to keep themselves busy and not just turn back to cocaine, basically, during the pandemic. I love, well, I'm sure that it was involved in most of that too. But I really did think the artists that we love and that we would have seen in concert probably at some point, they pivoted, which is a word that I hate using now, but they did a great job in a lot of cases. And then to cap it off, that Foo Fighters Times Like These that had like 40 different artists from across the world, that I watch that all the time and it still brings me to tears. I love that.
Sweet.
So that's a great thing to bring up, because this could potentially have been a musicless year.
Yeah.
There was potential for us not to get anything because they couldn't go into studios, they couldn't do whatever. And like the number of artists that thought creatively and thought, how are we going to keep doing this? And like your idea, you mentioned the online concerts. I watched only one this year. I paid for one. It was Pussifer. I love my Tool spin-off bands. Yeah. But that was cool. Like it was, and they were doing it in different ways, and like, you know, you were still getting your E Street bands and your Arkells and things like, but it was a neat spin on the way they normally do things. I mean, I think that the music that did come out this year was almost better because it was different. It was, you know, I mean, it wasn't just a standard studio album that you were getting. You were getting, you know, collaborations, and you were getting solos, and you were getting acoustics, and you were getting things that you may not have. A lot
of tributes and that sort of thing. Yeah,
that was really cool. Like you're right. That was something that 2020 did bring. That was a definite hit.
Nice.
Yeah. And they also had a $400 Prince Sign of the Times special edition box set with 63 new tracks that I bought, and I bought it on CD, and I also got a few other things. But I won't talk about the $1,000.
The greatest at segues for misses, because that's going to be one of my misses.
Awesome.
Oh man, I spent a lot of money this year.
Yeah.
Loved it. What about you, Neil?
I wanted to go with video games, if I may, because there's a couple of, there's one big story in video games, which is my miss, but I'm going to talk about my hit first. My favorite game of the year, obviously, you know, I'm a Star Wars nerd, and I'm also a PlayStation 4 guy, so I had to get Squadrons on VR, because the VR mode is fantastic. I mean, in Star Wars Battlefront a few years ago, we did get the opportunity to fly around in an X-Wing, and there was that little mission that ties into Rogue One with K2SO and all that. That was just a sampling. That was just a taste of what Squadrons wound up becoming here, as you can go into multiple kinds of ships. And the story, the campaign that you can play, you can also play that in VR. You have the option of playing in VR, so you can play the whole thing, you know, without the headset or with the headset if it gives you vertigo, or, you know, if it makes you sick, you know, I understand. But for me, it's way more beneficial naturally to play it in VR, because I just get so used to being in that cockpit, and it's just like, wow, it's like the Return of the Jedi space battle in 1983. Like I've been fantasizing about this since I was 5 years old, you know.
That's awesome.
In the 80s. So yeah, I mean, Squadrons, wow, like the storyline is okay. It's not like the greatest story of all time. You know, it's about an Imperial defector, a guy that goes to the rebellion, and then you wind up bumping into a whole bunch of famous characters like Wedge and Admiral Akbar and stuff like that. Cool. And you meet up with a bunch of new pilots and stuff too. So it's great, fantastic. And my miss is going to be the console release. So keep that in mind, the console release only of Cyberpunk 2077. You guys probably saw it.
I've heard a lot about this.
Yeah.
The biggest botched launch of a major game that I think I've ever seen. You know, I can't believe they released it when it wasn't ready. On PC, the game is fantastic. Like, I've watched some of the walkthroughs on YouTube, you know, just to kind of check it out, and it looks amazing. Like, when it's working, it's awesome. But when it's glitching, it's actually hilarious. I mean, you should look that up on YouTube as well. You'll see characters just going like, rah, 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 like around dances when they're trying to leave the room, but they just can't stop moving like that. So, oh man,
a modern day Daikatana. Do you remember when that one came out? It was like late 90s.
Yes,
the guy who
I
did
remember
Doom.
that.
and it was going to be like the next Doom, and it was just a piece of flaming garbage. Like, it was so bad. But that's exactly what this is. The hype leading up to it. Keanu Reeves, super into it. Like, he's a character. He did all the promo for it and everything. And yeah, it just absolutely flopped right at the gate.
Yeah, for the consoles, unfortunately. Which,
Yeah,
and the PlayStation Store, they took it down. That they're offering refunds to people, so hopefully they get it all patched and re-released, in the next 6 months or whatever. Because I think eventually people are going to go, "Oh, this is a really great game," Because sometimes launches get botched. I mean, Battlefront 2 had its issues when it was launched a few years ago. With the microtransactions and all that, and it was unfair.
Right, I forgot that.
But then eventually it became a great game. It became this wonderful, great game to play multiplayer once they fixed it. So I'm just hoping that they, fix it soon so I can pick it up and play through it on my PS4.
All right. Well, my big hit of the year was awesome movies that actually got awards this year. Like Schitt's Creek winning like every Emmy possible.
Yes. Yeah.
It was so cool. As a Canadian, it was like the best thing like ever happened.
Yeah.
And the other one was Parasite winning the Oscar.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
I thought it was
God,
cool.
that was this year?
Yeah, I know. It feels like it's like 6
Holy.
years ago.
Yeah.
I actually looked at that and I'm like, was that this year? I had to look back at it and I'm like, oh, I guess it was. Yeah, it was like back in February. So,
Yeah.
I just thought it was just cool. Like Parasite for me was like, I love that movie. And it was the type of movie I didn't think the Academy would love. But I was so cool to see was it South Korea or North Korea? I can't remember which.
South Korean for sure.
Yeah, it was, I can't remember. It's you know me with geography. But it was awesome that that it won that, and that a foreign movie would win. And also, but Schitt's Creek was like the way it swept. It was almost embarrassing as a Canadian. I felt a little embarrassed that they won so much. I don't know about you guys.
How very Canadian of you.
It was very Canadian of us.
Well, wasn't it an award like a record number of awards? Like I don't think any sitcom or television comedy has won that entire set of awards.
I don't think they have. No.
I think that was
To
part
sweep
of
all the majors. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't think that's ever happened with any comedy. Like even Modern Family didn't even pull that off. Yeah, that's part of what
Impressive.
that's so cool. It is.
Yeah.
Love Catherine, love Eugene, love the whole cast. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of Chris Elliott until I started watching this show from season 1 either. I was like, man, that dude's hilarious.
He is.
He's
funny.
so good at playing a despicable character. Like he's always been a bad character. In like Scary Movie 2, he was so gross. And like something about Mary. Yeah.
I just watched Scary Movie 2 like a month ago. Just rewatched it. It still makes me laugh. I don't know why. It's so terrible, but I love it. And Chris Elliott is so funny in that movie with his little tiny hand.
Yeah. That's right. It's so gross.
Do you notice? So, have you ever seen Chris Elliott do press? Like he doesn't do like whenever you see the whole cast of Schitt's Creek, he's never with them.
No, he's not.
He wasn't even at the party when they won. Like I just noticed that. Like I was like, where's Chris Elliott? Like he's never there. And even when they did the sort of like recap, he was barely in it. Like
he wasn't in it. So they did. They did a recap show at the end of the series, like a half an hour, and he was. There were only 2 characters who didn't appear, and he was one of them. He wasn't in it at all.
Yeah.
No, like he was a main character. Why would he not be in this recap? Like there were no interviews, there weren't even clips of him on set. Like it was almost like he was like, I don't want to be a part of this.
I wish I had the full story. My brother-in-law actually told me recently there was a comedian by the name of Chris Elliott who is a Canadian comedian. And there was something that I don't think it was a legal thing by any means, but Chris Elliott, the American, is much bigger in Canada than he is in America, and possibly because of Schitt's Creek. But like Chris Elliott's been in a lot of sitcoms. He had his own sitcom briefly, I think.
Yeah, he did.
Get a Life. Yeah.
Yes.
But there was something where there was a lot of confusion, and I always kind of bring it back to like the Bush and Bush X thing, where the Canadian had it first. Like so, this other comedian by the name of Chris Elliott was like starting to kind of blow up a little bit in Canada, and this is late 80s, early 90s kind of thing, and the American Chris Elliott started coming to Canada, and there's confusion. Like there's all this big thing. So I have no clue if there was actually any relation to that, or if he's just, maybe he lost his visa. I don't know.
But it's really glaring. Like when you watch like you said, when you watch the press or watch this recap show, it's really glaring that he's not in it.
And it's probably maybe just as a guy who just doesn't like to do interviews and things like that. Like maybe he likes to do the show, and like not everyone likes to do that kind of stuff. And he's just like, I've done the show, and now I'm out of here. And like, I know he has nothing but good things to say about it, but he's
But he comes to work in the morning, he does his job, and he goes home. Like that's
doesn't need to be enough.
He's not. He doesn't want to do any overtime. Yeah.
Well, Larry, what's your hit of the?
Well, I'm going to jump right on the back of Neil's hit
Yeah.
and go with video games, but I'm going to go with a different video game. My hit of the year is the Final Fantasy VII remake.
Ooh.
Because Final.
Yeah.
I am a massive Final Fantasy VII fan. Like I bought it when it came out, and I played it like all night long, and I played it like until it was done, like 60 hours of not sleeping. and I cried in it, and it was like amazing. And I've played it 3 times since then. Sorry, twice more, so 3 times in total. And so I was so excited about this coming out. And strangely, they released, well, not strangely, I guess, they released a playable demo where you could play like the first hour for free before they released the thing. So, which was great, because then you could like play it. And I played that hour probably 10 times.
Oh yeah.
Like 10 hours of just this one scene, because it was so good. And it's just great. But the only issue is, and it's a little bit of a miss, it's only the first quarter of the game. So
what?
Yeah, so you play through, and then the game stops. So then you're gonna have to wait like another year or 2 for like the next part of the game.
Oh, God.
So I don't know how long it's gonna take for the entire game to be released, and I don't know why they did it this way. It can't be for space, because it's gorgeous. Like it's beautifully rendered, but it's no different from like any of the other big name games. So I don't know why they couldn't get it all on a couple of discs.
Well, interestingly, I remember I bought Final Fantasy VII when it first came out too on the PC. Yeah. It was a 4-disc game.
Yes,
so huge. It was like a booklet that it came in and everything like that. It's a perfect video game. It is so wonderful. It's a great game.
It's so good that after playing that 1 hour for 10 hours, I found that on the PS4, in the PS4 store, they have the original Final Fantasy VII for like $14.
Nice.
And there's no discs. It's all just there. And they also, because I love gaming, but I'm not like a hardcore gamer, so I'm fine with cheat codes and things. The new version of the original, you can now like hit a button and like have infinite health points and magic points,
nice.
HP and XP.
Gets you through the grinding a little bit more, eh?
Yeah, so you don't have to. And you know how there used to be like infinite battles? You just be walking in there. You could turn those off now.
Amazing.
Yeah, so there's little things like that. So I've been actually replaying. I'm about 14 hours into the original again. Because you're right. To me, it is a perfect game. Like the storytelling is great. It's so good. So when they re-released this, like remastered it, now it's just beautiful. Like it's a story, the same story we love, but just.
So it's not like a $60 game for a quarter of the game, is it? Like, is it full price?
It's a full price, like an $80. Yeah, and I didn't know that going in. I didn't read anything about it being only like a quarter of the game, but that's what it is. It's not the whole thing.
So he gets changed his miss to that now.
It is a little bit of that part of it is a little bit of a miss.
And like how many hours is that? I wonder.
I think I didn't really clock it, but I was talking to other people, and it's like 20 or 30 hours. Like it's because they've added more depth to it. Did you play it, Neil? Do you know the original?
No, I played the original. On the original PlayStation, but I haven't played the remake, the upgrade.
Okay, but so you know the original. So yeah. Part of the original is you could walk through. You're walking through Midgard, and you're walking through different places, and there's lots of just citizens that you can walk up to and talk to, but you don't necessarily have to. But in this new game, you can interact more with the citizens of the town, and there's more sort of side stories. So they've really opened up the whole world and made it much more immersive. So it takes you longer to finish like a quarter of the game. And maybe that's why it's fair, so you're still getting a full solid gaming experience, but just don't expect to actually be able to finish it for another, I don't know, 10 years. Yeah, but it's good.
All right, I'll do my miss. Mine is the studio's fear of releasing movies in 2020. And I know why they couldn't. I know there's the COVID thing, but the theaters were open quite a bit this year. But it was like they don't want to re-release movies because no one wants to go to the theater, but then no one wants to go to the theater because there's no new movies to go see. like if they had released like Black Widow, I would have gone and seen it like at the theater. I would have risked it, like, because they could have had it in the theater for like 30 weeks because no one was seeing anything anyways, right? But yeah. I know I went to the theater, like, I don't know if you guys have been to the theater this year very much since the pandemic, but I've been a few times and I'm still kicking around. Like it was fine. Like I didn't feel like unsafe at the theater at any point in time, but
no,
I've been a few times.
Yeah. And like Tenet, the Tenet was in the theater for literally like 30 weeks. Like it was there forever.
And it's still bombed.
And it was in like 6 of the 8 theaters. Most of the time.
But it's true. Like, I mean, they limited the number. I went to see Tenet in the IMAX theater, which is a 350 seat theater, and they had limited it to 50 people. So even if it had sold out, you would still only have 50 people in a 350 seat theater. So distancing wasn't an issue. Like you were really far from everybody.
I get not doing it for the big, like I hate it, but I get not doing it for the big tent poles like Wonder Woman, that sort of thing. Totally would have seen it in theaters, passing on it for now to pay for it to stream. But I appreciate the fact that this hopefully will kind of level the field. And I think it was Fincher. David Fincher was saying that like studio movies right now, they either will spend nothing on a no budget movie or they'll spend $500 million or something like that on a superhero or something like that. So the reason that Fincher's gone over to Netflix is there's a middle ground there. There are still $20 or $30 million movies to be made. And those are usually the stories that are the completely unique stories that aren't, adaptation, reboot, all that sort of thing. I think had they released some of those out, people may have been a little more adventurous. We saw, I think it was 2019, where great movies like Booksmart got no love and nobody went to see it because you couldn't find a theater that was holding it. Yeah. And I get the financial reason is, well, why are we going to fill up a huge theater with only 50 seats or something like that? If we can fill it up with 350 people that want to see a bigger movie. So I'm hoping that it'll change a little bit. I hope the dynamic changes where we'll see a little bit more of those mid-budget movies, those mid-range movies that are more passion projects than they are dollar projects.
Yeah. But the other thing that was interesting about not having these big tent poles in theaters, I was so desperate to go to a theater that I was looking for pretty much anything. Like I did go to see Empire Strikes Back, like when they were running a lot of retro movies. That was cool. But the one other new movie that I went to see was Freaked. It was the Freaky, yeah. The Freaky. I don't think I would have gone to see that in the theater normally. I think that's the kind of movie I would have waited for Netflix. But I was and it was great.
Great movie,
really,
super
it was
fun.
A really fun movie. I really enjoyed it, and it was fun to see in the theater. But it sort of, I feel like it probably did better in the theater than it probably would have ordinarily because it would have gotten lost in like the, among the Tenants and the Wonder Womans and everything.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, but there was nothing else there, so I was like, I'm gonna go see it. It's got what's the guy's name?
Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn. It had Vince Vaughn. Like, how could this be bad? And it wasn't. It was
It was not. It was great.
Yeah.
Hey, Larry, did you go to the drive-in for Empire Strikes Back, or did you go to the actual theater?
I actually went to the theater.
Okay.
I went by myself because I was like, nobody else is going to want to go right now. So I went into the Imagine Theater.
Okay.
I was the only one. It was literally a private screening of Empire Strikes Back on the big screen. It was awesome. It was.
You sure it was open there? You just didn't walk into.
I made a break in.
Did you press play at any point?
Yeah. You watched from the projector booth. Yeah.
I mean, it was on my phone, but still, I was by myself.
I saw Empire at the drive-in. I went to the Mustang to see Empire Strikes Back this summer, and that was the only, pseudo-related to the movie theater experience that I had this year. So,
well, and
that's a movie I've already seen, but
that's actually a good point. Is that drive-ins did really well this year?
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about this, Matt, on the show before, how theaters in London converted to drive-ins. They like built screens on the back wall of their theater so that people could go. And I went to the drive-in, I think 3 times. Saw like Blues Brothers on the big screen,
Nice.
and E.T. on the big screen and at the drive. It was great. It was so much fun. Like that, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do that more often.
Well, what about you, Ben? What's your miss?
My miss of the year was, and Loop actually kind of brought it up when you're talking about the Prince box set, was the amount of, I think, like labels trying to make some money. The amount of reissues that I saw.
Oh, there's
and
tons.
like I'm such a big vinyl collector that I spend a ton of
Same
money
here.
on records, and it's so hard. As a huge, as you guys can probably tell, David Bowie fan, they released a series of live records, which I'm ambivalent towards a lot of live performances. I don't know that I need like 50 different live versions of one artist, but that's what they're doing. They've got a box set of 5 where they're selling an empty box for you to put the records in when you get the records.
Oh my
It's
god!
ridiculous. So like the just plundering of these reissues and like, it's the 27th anniversary of this record, so let's put it out for record store day number 4. Like we had so many of them.
Yes.
And that was what they did for the pandemic. Was normally in April you get all of these huge releases, but they're like, oh, we can't do that. So they instead did 3 different ones where they did like a third of the list, 3 different days out of each month, or 3 different months, I should say. And to me, it was like, if you're like, there are so many record collectors, there's so many flippers, there's so many people. It's just going to be packed 3 days now rather than 1. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. So it was a bad move out of in my opinion, with spreading it out over 3 days instead of 1. I talked to a lot of the record store owners and they were like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's a lineup out the door still. People aren't getting what they want. People come for something that isn't out this time. It's out next month or the month after or whatever. It just didn't make a lot of sense. And I can totally tell that despite the fact that records were delayed in a lot of cases, they were just pumping out so many of these reissues and like color variants and all this sort of stuff.
The colored
and
vinyl is outrageous right now.
Yeah, because they charge extra for it. It's the same thing to process it. It's actually like a record should be clear. They actually have to put black coloring in it to make it a black record. So the difference between black and like whatever, neon pink or whatever it would be is no different to them, but they'll charge extra for it. So I just found 2020, I was getting really worn out of having to spend money because I still need to do all that stuff.
See, my problem is I'm such a huge, like you be like a Bowie fan, I'm such a huge Prince fan that I have to own everything.
Yeah.
So and like they were put like this is in the Prince community, and there's a huge Prince community of people that they love buying all the variants of everything, right? You felt like you were getting shafted. Like the prices on some of these things were ridiculous, but you had to have it. Like you had to like, but there were people that were buying, they had a singles box set of all this. It was a vinyl, 45s of all the singles from Sign of the Times in a box set. So I didn't realize this, but I bought it and there was only like 1,500. Well, people bought them and were selling them like the next day after it sold out for like 3 times as much. And now it's like, it's ridiculous, the prices for it. And I'm like, come on guys. Like, this is like, you're just fleecing the fans. Like it's just, it's too much.
So that's like, and it's hard because you don't put it past Prince. Obviously this was not his decision, but once they die, so Parlophone right now with Bowie, they're releasing all these, like it's 5 live albums from the span of like 5 years or something like that. It's like his 90s performances, which aren't his best. Like it was kind of a low period of time for him, but literally a $30 empty box is what they're selling on the David Bowie store.
Yeah. When I bought the Glass Tiger Thin Red Line on vinyl because it looked like tiger striped, I knew I was at my rock bottom. Like I was like, I've done everything I can do with vinyl this year.
That's awesome.
But I had to have it. All right, well, let's go to movies. Of course, 2020 will leave behind us. We'll move to 2021. Let's go to movies of 2021 that we're looking forward to. And if you have a couple, that's cool. We'll just kind of rush through them here. Let's start with you, Larry. A couple movies that you're excited about.
Well, I mean,
or it doesn't have to be movies; it can be TV as well. Just whatever.
Okay. Well, so for movie, well, my actual pick for 2021 wasn't movies, but I have to say, virtually every movie that was supposed to come out in 2020 is what I'm excited about in 2021. You got your Bond, you got your what else was there? There's Dune, you got
Ghostbusters. Oh god, Ghostbusters killed me. Yeah.
Like literally this was going to be the best year in movies in a long time. But now they've all moved back, and so hopefully the ones that were supposed to come out in 2020 are going to be in 2021. So pretty much everything is what's exciting me. But what I'm looking forward to most, and I haven't brought up Star Wars yet because I thought I'll let Neil do that one. But really, 2021 for me is all Star Wars. It's they're about to launch the High Republic publishing line, so the comics and the books and all of that stuff leads into the Acolyte, the new show. Like there's just so much new Star Wars material coming this year. Plus we've got the Book of Boba Fett to look forward to in December. And it's just like, I'm just so excited about this new era of Star Wars that they've moved into, because I think we've now seen that they have figured it out. Like they get it. They know what they're doing. They're doing it right. I think they've got it. It's in the hands of the people who can do it. So I just feel like they're on course to give us like the golden age of Star Wars. I think we're just entering that right now. And I think it's going to start this year. So that's what I'm really excited about.
It's a good thing you're not looking forward to too many movies. Good thing you're not looking forward to too many movies, because you got a lot of Star Wars to watch in 2021.
I'm kind of hoping the theaters stay closed because I'm going to be home for all this.
You did forget about Yaddle, the show.
No, I won't forget about Yaddle.
No, the Yaddle's got to come back. I'm telling you, that's the next show from Star Wars. What about you, Neil? What are you excited about?
Well, a lot. I mean, okay, yeah. I mean, obviously, we'll get this out of the way, right? The Book of Boba Fett, of course.
Oh yeah.
So. Yeah, but also I wanted to mention other stuff because all my picks have been Star Wars pretty much. So I also got to say that there's a show coming out on the CTV Space Channel, or whatever it's called, Sci-Fi Channel. It used to be called Space. It's called Resident Alien, and it's this kind of wacky comedy starring Alan Tudyk, who's this alien that crash lands to Earth, and then he takes over this guy's body, who's played by Alan Tudyk. And then he just goes off and he just, he has all these crazy social interactions. The trailer basically explains it. I would definitely look it up on YouTube. Resident Alien. It looks interesting. I'm going to check it out. Cool. It's coming out real soon. I'm also really looking forward to the 3 Marvel shows that are showing up on Disney Plus coming soon, starting this month with WandaVision. Yeah. Which I don't know if it's all happening inside her head or what's going on, but I can't wait to see what the deal is with this show. And then, of course, after that, we'll get Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then after that, we get Loki. So definitely looking forward to those. I was a big fan of the show Stargirl, the DC CW show, which kind of unfairly got lumped in with a few other crappy DC shows. And it just kind of looks like, it's like Saved by the Bell superheroes or something. It's teenagers, and who cares? But it's actually a brilliant tribute to the Justice of Society of America, the original DC heroes from the 40s, and I really, really enjoy that show. So give Stargirl a chance. Looking forward to the next season, which is season 2. So I'm looking forward to that this year for sure.
Cool. All right, Ben, what do you think?
As far as movies go, I'm going to go with the obvious for me, Ghostbusters Afterlife. That trailer, I have watched that trailer over and over again.
So good.
Waiting. The movie was supposed to be released on my wife's birthday, and she's not a huge Ghostbusters fan, so I was going to be like, well, I'll pay for your dinner, and you go do that, and we'll go see a movie. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to the obvious Bond, that sort of thing. Nobody with I can't believe that movie just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It looks incredible. Bob Odenkirk, and it's like Better Call Saul and John Wick. Like, it looks incredible. Yeah. And when I saw the trailer for it, I was like, what is this going to be? But it looks super fun. That's definitely one of them. Halloween Kills too. Definitely looking forward to that. I loved the 2018 version of it, or whatever the last incarnation of Michael Myers was. And I think that they can and will improve on it too.
We're also neglecting to mention Top Gun Maverick.
Yes.
I am super. I know. Loop and I have talked about this before. Loop's like, meh.
Top Gun was that great? And
I love Top Gun. I love it, and I am so excited to see Tom Cruise actually flying. Like, he learned to fly the freaking jet. That's just crazy to me.
And the next Mission Impossible will be out too, so it's going to be a Tom Cruise heavy year. But I think it's slated for late 2021 still.
Yeah. Which will?
The new Mission Impossible.
Oh, right.
I
Yeah,
think.
that's right. Yeah, that's the movie that he lost his mind on.
Yes.
On the set. Yeah. So
I hope that somehow makes it in the credits or something. I really want to see it.
A post-credit scene.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna jump off of Ben. Halloween Kills. I'm a huge Carpenter fan, and even he has something to do with this. But it's I love that whole series. No matter, even with Busta Rhymes, it doesn't matter. It's the whole thing is amazing, and I was pumped about it this year. Apparently not, and so next year I'm looking forward to see how that. I thought the last one was so good. Like I just thought they brought it back to its basics, and it was just really well done. And the other one I'm excited about, which could be on the worst list for next year, I'll predict this right now. Snake Eyes, because I'm a massive G.I. Joe fan, and the Snake Eyes Origins movie comes out this year, and I'm so pumped about it.
Oh,
and I'm
that's hilarious.
You
killed Neil.
Yeah. No, I saw Snake Eyes on the wall there. I love Joe, man. I just love it, and I want one of the movies to be good. That's all I'm asking for is one of the G.I. Joe movies to actually be good. So expect my horrible review in 2021 at the end of the year in December when it finally comes out. But I am super excited about it. I want to see what they do with it anyways, but
I feel like 2020, I feel hopeful for 2021.
Yes.
So much good stuff. So much good stuff.
Hey, Caillou got canceled, so it's already off to a great start. Blasting off.
That's a pop culture win right there.
Yeah, it is right off the top of 2021. So, guys, I just want to say thank you so much for being part of our recap show. That was awesome. And again, Neil, where you can find you on Pop Cultured?
Yeah, you can find it. Well, I mean, we're updating the Facebook page when we can. So it's just on Facebook. I often produce little pop culture reviews for just on my own channel. And since the show hasn't really been on the air, since we haven't been in the studio in a while, that's, it's all just up in the air. We don't know what's going on. But Greg and I want to keep the show going. So I would just say, check us out on Facebook, Pop Culture Canada. And click like and follow us for all the latest and greatest in entertainment news.
Actually, you sound like a stormtrooper right now.
Yeah. Don't have your Boba Fett helmet on.
Yeah, come on. Ben, what about you? You do like a movie thing, right, where you review movies?
Yep. Every Friday we do a theater skip it, which has been very difficult because it's generally what's new in theaters. So we did a lot of themes this year, but yeah, it's fun. It's great. Get a little bit of feedback from people too. And yeah, anytime anybody wants a suggestion, I promise I'll do the work. I'll watch the movie.
Excellent. Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, thank you guys for helping to review 2020 with us. We did need your help. It was a weird year. So I'd like to thank you guys. Thank you, Boba Fett, for showing up at the last second there. I wasn't expecting this, but it was great. Thanks a lot. This was Loop and Larry, Guardians and Geeks. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Produced by Matthew C. Loop and Lawrence Simner. A Loop and Larry production.
Bueller.
He likes it. Hey, Mikey.
Bueller.
Bad news. The fog is getting thicker.
And Leon's getting larger.
Inconceivable.
Brian's right. It's an elf.
Wax on.
Does Barry Manilow know that you raid his wardrobe?
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Wax off.